On December 1st, 1948, a man's body was discovered on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. He appeared well-dressed. There were no signs of violence, no obvious cause of death, and no identification of any kind. And no one knew who he was. More than 70 years later, investigators would finally uncover his identity. But even today, many believe the mystery of how he died remains unsolved. That morning, the calm at the beach was broken by an unusual sight. An impeccably dressed man near the promenade who drew worried glances. Propped against the seawall was a man in a peculiar rigid posture. His head was tilted back, legs extended, and feet crossed. He was impeccably dressed for a man on a beach. Witnesses later reported seeing the man in the same position the previous evening, motionless through the night. At first, people assumed he was simply sleeping or drunk. But as the hours passed and the man remained completely still, concern grew. When he couldn't be roused, the police were called. Authorities confirmed the man was dead, and an investigation began. He appeared to be in his early 40s and in peak physical condition, with soft hands showing no signs of manual labor. His clothing was pristine, a white shirt, a patterned tie, a brown suit, and an overcoat, despite the warm weather. His shoes were perfectly polished. There were no signs of a struggle. In his pockets, police found train and bus tickets, a comb, and a pack of cigarettes. But there was no wallet, no money, and most importantly, not a single document to identify who he was. The man on Somerton Beach was a complete unknown. The investigation began with the few possessions found on the man. His suit was American-made, a detail that only deepened the mystery. But a strange pattern quickly emerged. Every single label from his clothing had been painstakingly snipped away. This was a conscious, methodical effort to erase his identity, the first clear sign this was no ordinary death. He carried no wallet or identification papers. His pockets held only mundane objects, nothing personal or identifying. Investigators logged them and moved on. For months, the case went cold. Then a pathologist discovered a secret fob pocket, discreetly sewn into the man's trousers. Inside was a tiny, tightly rolled piece of paper, a secret he had intended to carry to his grave. Carefully unrolled, the fragile scrap revealed it was torn from a book. Printed on it, in an elegant font, were just two words that would turn the investigation on its head. Tamam Shud. Tamam Shud is Persian. Ended, or finished. It appeared on a tiny scrap of paper concealed in a hidden pocket. Investigators soon learned the fragment had been torn from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a rare edition linked to the case. The discovery created even more questions. Who was this man? Why carry a hidden message? And why tuck the word "finished" away in a secret pocket? The clue quickly became one of the most famous pieces of evidence in Australian criminal history. For months, the investigation stalled, the identity of the Somerton man a complete blank. But then, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Following a public appeal by police for anyone who might have seen a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a local man stepped forward with a story that would pivot the entire case in a new direction. He explained that around the time the body was discovered, he had found a small book tossed into the back of his unlocked car, which he had parked near Somerton Beach. Thinking it was a simple mistake, he had set it aside. It was only after reading about the police's search that he realized its potential significance. He turned the book over to the authorities, who were about to discover it was the exact copy they had been searching for. Investigators immediately began a meticulous examination of the book, a specific edition of Edward Fitzgerald's translation. Their suspicions were confirmed in a moment of stunning clarity. The final page of the book had been torn out. When they compared the scrap of paper found on the deceased man, the piece bearing the words Tamam Shud, it was a perfect match. The unique tear pattern and paper type aligned flawlessly. This was, without a doubt, the book that had belonged to the Somerton man. But this crucial connection was only the beginning. As detectives turned the book over, they found something else, something far more cryptic. On the inside of the back cover, faintly written in pencil, were several lines of strange markings. 5 lines of capital letters, seemingly random, formed what appeared to be a complex and unbreakable code. One line was struck through, adding another layer of ambiguity. Was it a mistake or a deliberate part of the message? Cryptographers, both amateur and professional, would spend decades attempting to decipher these characters, but the message, if there was one, remained locked away. And alongside the baffling code, there was one more tangible clue: a telephone number. This number provided police with their first concrete lead to a person. It belonged to a woman, a former nurse, who lived in the nearby suburb of Glenelg, just a short distance from where the Somerton man's body was found. Investigators now had a name and an address, hoping this woman held the key to unlocking the entire mystery. Investigators interviewed the woman. She admitted owning a copy of the Rubaiyat years earlier. However, she denied knowing the dead man. Police showed her a plaster cast of his face. "I've never met him." The woman's connection to the case fueled decades of speculation. Was she telling the truth? Or was she hiding something? As the years passed, theories began to emerge. Some believed the Somerton man was a spy. The timing seemed suspicious. The Cold War was beginning. Australia was involved in sensitive military research. The coded notes discovered in the book resembled intelligence communications. Others believed the man had been poisoned. Medical experts noted certain findings that some believed were consistent with toxins. Yet no poison was ever conclusively identified. Without a clear cause of death, speculation continued for decades. For generations, investigators, journalists, cryptographers, and amateur detectives attempted to solve the case. Newspapers published theories, books were written, television documentaries explored possible explanations. The coded message was analyzed repeatedly. No definitive solution emerged. The Somerton man became one of the world's most famous unidentified persons. Even his name remained unknown. Then modern forensic science changed everything. Advances in DNA technology allowed researchers to examine evidence that previous generations could not. Investigators obtained DNA samples linked to the case and began conducting genealogical research. The process took years. Family trees were reconstructed, potential relatives were identified, thousands of records were examined. Eventually, researchers reached a conclusion. In 2022, researchers announced that the Somerton man had likely been identified as Carl Webb. Webb was an electrical engineer from Melbourne. For the first time in more than 70 years, investigators finally had a name. One of the greatest mysteries in Australian history had partially been solved. But only partially. Knowing who Carl Webb was did not explain why he died. It did not explain the hidden note. It did not explain the coded writing. It did not explain his connection to the woman whose phone number appeared in the book. And it did not explain why every identifying label had been removed from his clothing. Many of the most important questions remain unanswered. Today, the Somerton man case remains one of the most fascinating mysteries ever investigated. Modern forensic science finally gave the unknown man a name. Yet the circumstances surrounding his death continue to inspire debate around the world. Was Carl Webb a victim of poisoning? Was he involved in espionage? Or was there a simpler explanation hidden somewhere within the evidence? What do you think happened to the Somerton man?